You're listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. I am your host, Al Mega, CEO of Comic Crusaders and Undercover Capes. In this show, I'm sitting down with creators from all walks of life to talk about inspiration, process, the lessons they've learned, and a whole lot more. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Comic Crusaders and lovers of style and story, baby. Today, we're diving headfirst into smoky back alleys and blood-stained noir vibes with the best-dressed man in comics. Let me tell you, my man is back. He hasn't been here since 2020, and he's back with Red Sonja Noir from Dynamite Comics. It's a dark and pulpy take on our favorite crimson-haired warrior. You know him from Elvira, Betty Page, and now he's turning Sonja into a detective from hell. So polish your boots, grab your trench coat, and let's crack this case wide open with the one, the only, the legendary man himself, Mr. David Avallone. Baby, how you doing?
Thank you, Al. I will try to live up to that intro.
You're the man, brother. For real. Thank you for coming back. Wow, since 2020, since we did our first virtual condo with that COVID era, if you will.
I remember that. I looked back for that too because I knew I'd been on before. I didn't realize it had been 5 years.
Yeah, it's so long, but that's all right, man. In those 5 years, man, you have been smashing it. You have been on a journey. You have been cultivating the scene with style, and the Avallone verse, if you will. So let's talk about it, man. How have you been dressing the industry sharp? With those writing and even sharper stories. What's going on?
Yeah, well, I try to keep busy. Man, I write what I can. I respond to what comes across my desk and what they want me to do. And I've had a lot of fun with Elvira, especially the last 5 years. It's been a lot of Elvira. But I've done a bunch of shorts for Dynamite that have also come up. I've got a creator-owned book coming from them later this year, maybe early next year. We can talk about that a little later.
Oh my God, he teasing over here, bro.
Oh, yeah.
Not only is he the best dressed man, he's teasing here like a stripper. You better stop it, bro. Everybody's about to pull out their wallet and start putting stuff on their pull list. There we go. All right. So is this Red Sonja? It is noir. This is fire. Now, we got to ask here, David, where did this twisted trench coat wearing take on the She-Devil come from? Were you sipping whiskey in a dark alley?
A bunch of years ago, Joe Rybant, the executive editor at Dynamite, asked me for a Red Sonja pitch. And I was thinking about, the number one question you ask yourself as a writer, and you basically ask yourself this on every page, you ask yourself this on every line of dialogue, if you know what you're doing, is what hasn't been done before? And, I love what's been done before with Red. People have done great books with Red. But they're all sort of in the same sword and sorcery genre, and that's fine. That's where she comes from. That's who she is. But I just thought, what about a story where, and look, everybody, all the best writers that have written Red, Gail Simone, Mark Russell, have written her as smart. No one writes her as a dummy. But I thought, what if her being smart was like the main thing that we were highlighting in a story? What if it was
just chainmail?
Yeah. What if it was not about her ability to chop people's heads off effectively, but it was about the fact that she's been around the block and she knows how the world works and she knows how corrupt the world is, and she knows what, to quote the Shadow, she knows what evil lurks in the hearts of man. And I thought that made her a pretty good detective. And I basically unashamedly grafted her into a classic detective story that everybody loves. I think it'll take people reading it about 5 minutes to figure out what I'm referencing with this story.
Okay.
It's not a one-for-one adaptation of it. I would never do that. I think that would be boring. But yeah, I wanted to do a story that was about how Red moves through the world and understands what it is, and doesn't trust people and has good reasons not to trust people, and how she acts on that. I also thought it would be fun to put her in a more urban setting than usual, because we've seen in past Red Sonja, there are cities in that world. And I don't think I mentioned it by name at any point in the script, but I chose a sort of Mediterranean seaport kind of city that this takes place in, and it deals with things that happen in cities as opposed to things that happen in desert battlefields and in jungles and in lost temples and all that. This takes place in the Hyperborean version of office buildings and hotels and back alleys and all of that. It takes place in Hurricanian San Francisco, for want of a better metaphor. And yeah, I just thought that would be more interesting to write than come up with another sword and sorcery thing to hang her on. And again, I have no disrespect for those stories. I think they're great.
Of course.
But it's one thing that you have to do as a writer. People often turn up their noses at ideas like branding. But I say this as a person who does a lot of different kind of stories across a lot of different genres and a lot of different mediums. People still like to look at you and see, I'm going to get a thing that's going to be this kind of thing. It's going to be, for me, I think they expect it's going to be funny. It's going to have sharp dialogue, and it's going to move fast, and it's going to have a pulpy feel to it. I mean, I think I have that reputation as well. So, the mystery, the hard-boiled detective is also a creature of the pulps. Also comes out of cheap magazines that people were buying in the 1930s. So this is the crossover of, what if Red Sonja was in Black Mask Quarterly instead of in Weird Tales or Amazing Adventures or anything like that.
I did stuff like that because one of my favorite, I'm a Conan fan, so one of my favorite stories was kind of outside of the Conan one, was what if he was in the prison? He became a pimp on all this shit. This is kind of wild, you know what I mean? He was a thug, like up here in the streets of New York. Like, what the heck? Okay, he took a turn, boy.
Yeah, but those thought experiments are fun, and especially when you've got characters that have been around for almost 100 years now, 90 years.
Right?
In the case of the superheroes, in the case of the classic superheroes, in the case of the pulp heroes, in the case of Red Sonja and Conan, those characters have been around a lot. The current iteration of Red Sonja has been around since the 70s. Yes. So, it's worthwhile to go, what can we do? It's a challenge, and I think it's a challenge that every writer faces when they're dealing with a licensed character, with a character who's been around for 80, 90 years, is what can I do that people haven't seen before?
So talk about that. So what makes Red Sonja Noir just sliced differently than any tale you've ever told before?
Yeah, it's because it's taking a character who's defined by their physicality and admiring her mind instead, for want of a better word, giving her a puzzle to solve. And I just thought the particular story that I chose to hang on her is a very old one and a very popular one. And it's about honor being more important than anything. It's about being true to your values, being more important than love, being more important than money, being more important than success. And I thought that Sonja, thinking about this story, I thought, Sonja has those same values. Sonja would also avenge a death that she promised to avenge, even if she didn't feel great about the whole experience, even if she didn't want to kill the person that her honor requires her to kill. So yeah, that was where it came from, and that was sort of where I went with it.
So talk to me, what was it like working with your artistic partner on this project? Were there any moments where you were both like, yep, that's the panel, like detectives finding the final?
Edu, I had worked with Edu twice before on I've done 3 issues now of Savage Tales.
Nice.
And the most recent one was in just a couple of months ago, just in February. And for those comics, I've done 2 8-page John Carter Warlord of Mars Deja Thoris stories, and Edu was the artist on those.
Nice.
And did a very good job. One was called Honeymoon on Mars, one was called A Mutiny on Mars. And I really liked his style. Again, particularly, John Carter is another sword and sorcery thing to a degree. It's, what we call planetary romance. It comes from the teens, the 19 teens, and from a period when people wanted to write exotic stories about other planets as if they were other continents on Earth. And Edu did a really great job with the swordplay and with the action and with the character beats. And when Joe suggested that he draw this one, I said, yeah, great. I'd love to see it. And he's doing a really great job. And he understands the noir of it all. There have been a couple of times that he's drawn a page, and even before I say something, he comes back with a new version of the page, and he's like, made it a little darker, made the shadows a little deeper, made it a little, made it a little more.
Yeah, like that light color shit. Hold up, Dave. Ignore, delete.
Yeah, yeah. He really gets what we're doing here, and has done a great job with it. And like I said, it's important in a story like this to be able to draw emotion, to be able to tell the audience what the character is thinking.
You have to.
Yeah, even if they're saying the complete opposite thing. And he's done very well with it. So, excellent. Yeah.
So, I know this is the one shot, but it reads big. So how do you balance classic noir tropes with the fantasy fury of Red Sonja?
Yeah, I mean the thing is that in this one the fantasy element is a little bit of a fake out, which I don't want to give away the fantasy is definitely
too much now. Come on.
Fantasy is definitely a part of it. There's definitely a supernatural element, but there's also an element of people using the supernatural when they don't know what they're doing, which I thought, you don't see. I feel like you don't see that enough in fantasy. Of like, sure, there are real wizards and there are real sorcerers and there are, real magic items, but there would also be people faking that stuff. There would also be hucksters selling magical artifacts that aren't magical. There would also be people chasing after power that they're never going to understand, that they're never going to be able to use because they're not really wizards. They're just kind of wannabe wizards. So I sort of thought that would be a fun, sort of the chasing after power in noir is the chasing after money. Usually in this, the characters are chasing after magical power. Okay. And just like in noir, it leads them astray. It leads them into things that aren't real and that where they're being swindled. Excuse me. So I thought that was a fun place to take the sword and sword. But again, I should definitely say there are definitely a lot of sword fights in this thing. People's heads do get chopped off. It is absolutely a swashbuckling thing. It just has this other aspect to it.
What is a Red Sonja book without heads flopping about? Now,
exactly.
So you always bring that vintage pulp energy. Now, were there any maybe old school flicks or dime novels that lit the fire for this particular story?
Well, there's one really specific one that, like I said, when you read it, you'll go,
"Oh, really? There is."
Huh. Okay. I know exactly what story this is.
Oh man, I can't wait.
I will give you, without saying what the story is. The comic is called, waiting for my ride to pass. The comic is called Red Sonja Noir, but the story inside is called The Crimson Calypso. And in it, it's about a bunch of people who are trying to get possession of a magical artifact called the Crimson Calypso. And there's a lot of murder and double crossing around who will get the Crimson Calypso, and can they use the Crimson Calypso to get magic power and all of that. So if you think about a bunch of people chasing around after a specific item that means a lot to them, you might figure out what classic film noir and novel this is very largely based on.
I know that's gonna excite the fans out there for sure. Now I gotta do this. I love doing things like this to you guys. This is fun to me. Describe Red Sonja Noir in 3 words, but make them sound like they came from a 1940s radio drama.
3 words for Red Sonja. It's I mean the what would go on the poster for the 1930s movie version would be action, thrills, romance.
Hey, there you go. Exclamation points all about.
Yeah, exclamation points all around. Exclamation points all around, because I think it has all of those things in it. It does have it is also a love story. But yeah, action, thrills, romance, I think in that order.
How was it? Was it hard or easy to get Red Sonja into a fedora and then get it past, the Dynamite gatekeeper?
Not,
like, I don't know about this. I mean,
luckily she doesn't actually have to wear a fedora in it. But yeah, Joe liked it. When I pitched it, and like I said, I had pitched it years ago, and then I got busy with other things, and we never went back to it. And then sometime late last year, it must have been, Joe reached out to me and said, "Hey, can we get a Red Sonja one shot from you?" And I said, "How about that? How about that mystery thing that I pitched a while ago?" And I had pitched that, by the way, as a 4-issue series.
Oh wow!
And I said,
they made you do a 4-issue series into a one shot.
And I said, I could do it in. I said, I can't do it in 20 pages. I could do it in 30. If you can give me 30, I can do it in 30 pages. And they said, yeah. And I will absolutely cop to the fact, excuse me, that when I was about a little more than halfway through writing it, I wrote Joe and said, "Can I have 32 pages?" And he said, "No, you promised me 30, do it in 30. And I said, okay, I did it in 30.
Damn. Are we going to get the unabridged version?
Yeah. No, I think, 4 issues I would have had to introduce more subplots, which would have been great and fun, but not necessary. And the novel and movie that I'm quietly adapting here, like, if you really know them and you read this, you'll go, oh, that character is those 3 characters combined into one person. Oh. That character we don't need anymore. There are some characters who all become one person. I had to reduce the number of murders because I didn't have the number of pages to get up to that number of murders. But yeah, it was mostly just collapsing a couple of characters into one another. But I will say this, which is, I have no idea if they'll go for it, but we'll see how the sales go on this. And I pitched another Red Sonja Noir one shot, and we'll see if they like it. And it's based on that one is based on a short story by the same author that I've always loved and wanted to adapt somewhere. So.
Hey, shit. Look at Dave T. Folks, let's make this happen, because it's going to be fun.
Well, I mean, and honestly, it was just going to be a Red Sonja one shot. And when I was working on it, I said, just to see if anybody cares, to see if it draws any kind of attention or interest, let's label this thing Red Sonja Noir. Like, it was just, that wasn't going to be a part of it. It was just going to be Red Sonja, the Crimson Calypso, and that was going to be it. And I said, let's try branding this to signal to people that it's going to be a slightly different version of Red than they're used to. Even though I think it's consistent with everything you've ever seen the character do in the past, it's a different kind of a Red Sonja comic. And Joe, as the evidence directly above my head shows, Joe was totally on board with it. And so, yeah, I think if it sells enough copies, Joe will be interested in doing another one, and I'm already ready to dive into that one the minute they ask.
Let's get it done, Dynamite. Let me plan. Let's make that explode. No pun intended. Now, you've written and rival Betty Page and Sonja. So who's more dangerous to write? The undead, the seductive, or the sword wielding?
Well, I'll tell you the real world answer to that is that the thing about the good news and bad news about Red Sonja and Betty Page is they're not. Betty Page is long gone, and Red Sonja is not a real person.
Yeah.
Elvira is a real person, Cassandra Peterson. So the joy is
Met her before.
that she's real, and I get to talk to her about what the character is doing, and I get her input and her advice and her help and all of that. The great thing that happened to me with Betty Page is that the people who are in control of the Betty Page estate love what I did with the character and were very open to whatever I was going to write. So that worked really well. And Red also has some rights holders, but it's a different thing to be like representing a real person who died and representing a real person who's alive and can have an opinion, and a fictional character who never existed.
And you're on all three lanes. Holy shit, brother.
So as far as dangerous goes, the most dangerous is Elvira, because I don't want to piss off a real person.
And Elvira still look good, and she look young enough to still beat ass. So I'll be.
Oh yeah, no, she's great and she's hilarious, and I love her, and we have a great working relationship. But by the same token, I'm not writing Red Sonja thinking, I'm going to get a phone call from Red about this and she's going to hate it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I have no fear of the actual Red Sonja being mad at me for screwing up something. And the thing that's interesting, I mean, you talk about danger in terms of the characters. Red Sonja is obviously the most physically dangerous. And it's been an interesting thing having to write, comic booky adventures for Betty Page, who was just a model.
Yeah. Right.
She wasn't a superhero. Of course, by issue 5, I have her being trained by the government to be a secret agent. So I sort of overcome the whole, what is a model doing in a fist fight? What is a model doing firing a machine gun? And with Elvira, it's even more like she's just a comedian in a nice dress. And there's a line in a fairly recent thing where she's entering into a situation that's very dangerous, I think with H.P. Lovecraft. And she says something like, how much danger am I in here? Because I'm pretty much in the kick in the nuts and run away. Like that's pretty much all I've got. And because it's H.P. Lovecraft, it's like, is this thing even going to have nuts that I can kick?
So I hope so for her sake.
Yeah. So yeah, it's more of a challenge you put Red Sonja in a dangerous situation. She can handle it. She
got Elvira back. Forget about it.
Yeah. Cassandra is not that interested in crossovers, but I did manage to sort of cheat an Elvira, Red Sonja, Vampirella crossover. Oof. We did a special called The Wrath of Khan, where she's going to a comic book convention, Khan with a C. And there's a point at which a Vampirella and a Red Sonja cosplayer come to her aid when she's being attacked by people. So I managed to sort of sneak in that crossover because I get asked.
Give her a taste. Give her a taste of the potential. Come on, Elvira.
I get asked a lot if we can have her crossover with other characters.
I would love to see that. That would be so much fun. I mean, come on, Elvira, let's make it happen. You're a superwoman yourself. You can hang with these other.
We do have on the books. It just hasn't been scheduled because we got a lot of stuff going on. There is a Elvira meets Betty Page comic.
Oh, cool!
Coming at some point. It's just pretty far out.
Well, two real life people, so yeah, that kind of makes sense. It's maybe with the Red Sonja thing, right?
What has to come first is I don't know if you know this. DC and Dynamite are working on a Red Sonja. Not Red Sonja. An Elvira meets Harley Quinn comic. Actually, it's probably called.
Oh, that's gonna
Harley Quinn meets Elvira. That excuse me, Jimmy Palmiotti and Amanda Connor are working on.
Oh, Jimmy P, man.
DC wanted Jimmy to write it because he's their big, Harley Quinn person, and I can't argue with that. But I have been brought on as a consulting editor to help with the Elvira parts of it. So that's been fun. And I don't know that has a street date yet, but it's coming.
Oh, awesome! I can't wait to see that. That sounds a lot of fun for sure. Now, let's talk about all this cover art, man. Cause I mean, look at this cover right here from Lyrics, right?
Yep.
Oh my God, yo, wow!
It's a
It
very popular style right now.
yeah, it reminds me also of Des Taylor, Dazzle Pop. I don't know if you've seen that. Yeah, it's like, it's just crazy, wonderful. That's beautiful. Then you got this dope cover here too. What?
Yeah. That's Linsner, right?
Yeah, Lindsay, Michael Lindsay, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
like that I like that he nodded towards the premise enough to put her sort of in a back alley, sort of in a city. She's got the skull in front of her. She's been wounded. That's a really solid cover for
So
this
there's
book.
a lot of hints here, apparently,
Yeah.
folks. You
A little
better
bit.
you,
A little bit.
then we got the cosplay cover over here.
Yeah,
She looks kike ass, yo.
yeah, I really love that cover actually. I don't always adore the cosplay covers, but this is a really good one. I love how tough and disheveled she
That's
looks.
what it is. That's what it is. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not overtly sexual. I know that sometimes they are. Let's be honest. But this
Yeah.
is that shows that you're like, yo, this is Red Sonja, a tough woman that just been through a battle. And she's just there, like, yo, who's next?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I really love that cover.
It's dope. It's dope. I
It's
think.
I haven't had a lot of I have we always do a photo cover for Elvira, but honestly, there are so many pictures of her to choose from that I don't know that we've ever taken a new picture for an Elvira cover because
I mean, it's that she don't change anyway. She's beautiful.
yeah,
Still
there's sort of
the
an
same.
infinite number of great pictures of Cassandra to use for it.
All right. So let me ask you, what was the most fun scene to write in the book? And give us a no spoiler teaser because we love.
That is a hard one. There are the things that were most fun to write are huge spoilers. Let's say that the work that I'm referencing ends with a sort of famous monologue, and redoing that monologue in Red Sonja's voice was a lot of fun. And there are placing some of the Easter eggs was a lot of fun. The stuff that old mystery fans will recognize and enjoy. But yeah, it's hard to come up with a specific scene without giving away the plot of the book too much. But yeah, there's a character. The villain is named Strata Verde, and she's again based on a famous pulpy character. And that character in the original has a very grand way of speaking, and it was fun to write that character as well.
All right. So I know this is your first rodeo, but how has your style, if you say, evolved since, say, the Shadow or the Twilight Zone days?
That's overall as a writer, I think I've gotten a little better since then, because that was way back at the beginning of my career.
How long is the career for those that are just unaware? Not trying to age you over here, bro.
Oh no, it won't. It'll actually the opposite. It'll make me seem 20 years younger than I really am. I started writing comics in 2014, so it's only been 11 years since I started writing comics. I was
bro. You made fuck, bro. Big salute to you. You made an impact in 11 years. God bless, bro.
Thank you. I was doing a lot of other stuff, and I've done a lot of stuff since. Last 2 years I've been writing on a TV show called Bat Wheels for Warner Brothers Animation, and I was primarily a film guy before I got into comics, and I was editing and.
But why the transition? Why the transition? What made you say, let me go from this to
honestly a couple of things. I didn't intend originally that this would be like the main focus of my career. It just, you go where the work is. And at the time that the opportunity came up, I was editing and producing and sometimes directing low budget movies. And it's a pretty brutal, exhausting field. And I had done a couple of movies that just ended up being nightmares to work on. And I was just burned out. And at exactly the time that I was burning out on low budget movies, a colleague read an old script of mine for a movie that never got made and said, "You're a really good writer. Let me introduce you." She was like, "I can't help you get any movies made, but what I can do is I can recommend you to some comic book editors." And
Ooh, nice.
introduced me to Joe Rybant at San Diego Comic-Con, and we had drinks and talked for a couple of hours. And at the end of that meeting, he said, "Let me go back to New York and see if I have something that I can find for you." Or actually, back to, I think their headquarters was in New York at the time. Now they're in Jersey. But he came up with Legendary Vampirella, which was a spinoff from a Bill Willingham thing. And he said, in order to get this job, you have to impress Bill Willingham with what your plan is going to be for it.
All right. Damn.
And I got on the phone with Bill, and we ended up talking for about 2 hours, and he liked everything that I had in mind. And we come from a similar, like, we like a lot of the same stuff. So when I said, "Oh, I'm going to bring in some characters from The Prisoner of Zenda," like, I didn't have to explain to him what The Prisoner of Zenda was and, these old public domain characters from an old swashbuckler novel. And he was like, "Yeah, great. This all sounds great." And, like anything else, if that script had been bad, that would have been the end for me. But I had a great time doing it, and I fell into the rhythms of it pretty naturally. I will also say, and I say this for all the people out there that are thinking about pursuing this as a career, I took it seriously. I was 49 years old when I got my first comic book writing job. I was not young.
Okay. Wow.
And I had,
people, let me fucking wow, look at this.
and I had worked in a completely different art form. And it was really invigorating at age 49 to learn a new language, to learn. You can't just take a screenplay and put panel 1, panel 2 in it. It's not the same thing. You can't take a short story and throw panel names in there. You have to learn the language. You have to learn about pacing and page turns and how many panels belong on a page and how many words can you fit in a panel. And the very first time I wrote a comic, I actually, I sketched it. I did sketches of every page, which are bad. I'm not an artist.
So you're trying to do a storyboard on this.
But I wanted to make sure that what I was describing would fit on the page.
Or translate or whatever. Yeah.
And the words would fit on the page. And I didn't show them to the artist, because the whole point of being a comic book writer is you shouldn't have to you shouldn't have to do layouts if you're the writer.
No flats for you.
So I never showed him the layouts. But when the pages came in, they looked enough like my shitty layouts that I was able to relax and go, "Okay, I can stop doing this now.
I'm not that bad.
I have the language down. I can communicate to an artist what my ideas are without showing them stick figures of where." And there are times I've had artists reach out to me, and I don't mind this at all, and say, "You have a lot of stuff going on in this panel. How do you see it? Like, how are all of these people standing around each other? How am I fitting all of that stuff you described in the background?" And I've drawn a bad, caricature version of it and send it off. And then like I said, I've never had someone look at one of those and go, "Oh, I can't do this." Yeah. They've always done a great job. Every once in a while they hit a description where they go, "I have no idea what that would look like."
Is this what you're going for?
Yeah.
God?
I would always rather be asked than have someone take a shot at it and be wrong.
I love it. All right, but let me ask you: if Red Sonja was a gumshoe on a case in 2025, what would be her vice? Whiskey, revenge, or just sharp steel and sarcasm?
I think all of the above. I mean, Red Sonja is someone who, like her experience of life is that life is short and brutal and it ends violently, and It's the thing she most has in common with Conan, I think, is that she's a hedonist. She lives for the moment. She lives for today.
And you gotta earn her. Also remember that, fellas. You gotta earn her. If you don't burst her in battle, you dead. Otherwise, you might have a chance. Might.
Yeah. So I think all vices would pretty much. I don't know that she'd go in for gambling because gambling is for suckers.
She's not one of those. That's why I like her. She hates. That's why she kind of argues with Conan too. Cause Conan is all about that fucked up life. You don't give a shit.
Yeah.
But Red Sonja is definitely, she is the Eve to his Adam.
Yeah, well, and like Eve, she's smarter than he is.
Oh yeah, no, you know what? I agree. She's
for real smarter than Conan. That's the best thing about their relationship.
Yeah, she's a tactician. She goes into it with very forward thinking. Where Conan's like, you know what? F it. I'm just gonna, let's just brawl on these folks right here.
Yeah, and that's the downfall of people who badly write powerful characters. Have them rely on their power.
Yeah.
This is, as an aside, it's like the minute we decided that Batman's armor is bulletproof.
Don't talk to me about Batman, bro.
You got shit where people, like in the first Batman movie, someone pulls a gun on him, and instead of ducking out of the way, he just stands there and gets shot and falls
like
down.
Superman, like he was Superman.
And it's like,
thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Being shot while wearing a bulletproof vest.
You're gonna drop like a sack of potatoes,
and it hurts like hell. And no one would stand there and let them say, "Well, I've got body armor. I'm just."
Nah.
It's like, no. The whole point is Batman moves so fast you can't shoot him.
Yeah,
he's a gymnast. He's an athlete. That's the thing. It's like when you power characters a certain way.
Yeah.
Red Sonja might be the strongest woman in the world, but she's still like, she's maybe 5'8". She doesn't have giant bulging muscles. She can't rely on that.
Need it because lean muscle is much more dangerous than big muscle. I'll tell you that much. That's a fact.
But she's not going to, if there's a room with 100 guys in it, she's not going to think the best way to beat them is to walk.
Oh, you giving us the 100 guys versus the gorilla argument right now?
Yeah. But it's like she's not going to go like, well, the way for me.
Wait, what if it was 100 guys versus Red Sonja? Do you think Red Sonja you get through 100 dudes again? I love it.
Oh yeah, I mean, depending on who the dudes are.
Everybody, you know what? I was laughing before. I was thinking about that. I said I want every guy because I was saying, how should the guys be? I want every guy to be like a Bill Gates type of guy. So Red Sonja was definitely clear.
Yeah. Well, and also the thing about mobs is like there's always the guy who's the first. Is the guy who's closest to Red Sonja gonna be willing to be the guy that dies?
The example.
You know what I mean? If there's 100 guys, one of them has to be the first one. No one's gonna want to be the first guy.
I'm gonna be number 100, and I'm gonna ask for mercy.
Yeah, it's like it's easy for the guys in the back of the crowd to be like, dude, attack. But the guy who's right in front of her is going to be like, I don't know, man. This seems like a really bad idea for me personally.
So I think Dave wants to be, and I think Dave and I will be fighting for number 100 place.
Yeah.
And no, you died 99, motherfucker. All right. I love it. All right. So, Comic Crusaders love the creator hustle, bro. How do you keep the Avallone verse fire burning year after year, bro?
I never get bored. I'm always, I do a lot of different stuff. Last year, I wrote on a Planet of the Apes role-playing game.
Yeah, baby.
I wrote, the Elvira comic with H.P. Lovecraft. We're still not finished with it, but I'm in the middle of the Drawing Blood series for Image, which I co-created with Kevin Eastman, and that takes place in the present day.
What?
And it's about, it's a contemporary comedy drama.
I love it.
There's no magic.
My next question, because I was like, what are you up to next? Yeah. Look at you. So go ahead, keep preaching, baby.
Yeah, it's a story with no magic and no monsters and no superheroes. It's about people who work in the comic book industry.
Dope. I love. Listen, as I've gotten older, I've tended to appreciate those slice of life stories so much more. And superheroes is fun. I'm not taking away from that, but they had their time and place for me. Now
Yep.
it's those slice of life, those like real heartfelt stories that talk industry, talk life, talk family, talk love, talk
Yeah.
role. Like bro, I'm and that even detective stories where shit that make you think. Let's try to solve this together. Not just hey, let me get two superheroes fucking fighting each other. I'm tired of that shit. To be
Yeah.
honest.
No, I mean, I always argue that you can do anything in any genre. You can tell any kind of story. But it's nice every once in a while to do a story where it's not like, oh, 5 pages has gone by. I really need to put a fist fight in here, or someone needs to chase someone, or someone needs to pull a gun, and I can just tell a story that unfolds like a story. And if you make those characters compelling enough, the audience will follow you, and will if they identify with the characters and what the characters are going through, they won't need an outer space monster or a sword fight or whatever. And again, I love outer space monsters and sword fights, and I will write about them till the end of time. But it's good to do something else as well and to flex that muscle.
All right, let's get down to this, color. You're able to tell us what you're doing next, but when it comes to conventions now, any appearances anywhere for folks get to meet you, shake your hand, get a signed book, and chit chat in person?
Sure. Well, I'll be at Free Comic Book Day in 2 days, 3 days.
Yeah, over the weekend, Saturday, baby. Let's go.
Saturday morning, I'm at Arsenal Comics in Newbury Park. From 11 to 1 p.m. and then from 2 p.m. if I can drive fast enough, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. I'll be at We Can Be Heroes in Chatsworth. It's looking like the weekend after that, I will actually be at Comic-Con Ontario at a table.
Oh, nice. Canada, they accept you?
Not really. I'll be honest.
Yeah, they hate us right now. Not even our fault. We ain't do nothing, man.
I only go to oh no, not Ontario. Ontario in Southern California.
I mean California. Oh, you know what? It was funny. I always get that confused. The first time I had to have a reroute when I went to San Diego, and when they told me Ontario, I said, "I'm Canada. What the fuck are you talking about?"
Yeah, Ontario is about an hour east of Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I generally only go where writers don't make a lot of money at conventions unless you're, I'm not Brian Bendis, I'm not Mark Waid. So I'm not making that
kind of manifest because you are a big boss. But you touching people.
You got to have a realistic expectation of who you are, and
I get it. But people are gonna appreciate you. Don't you worry. People are gonna keep finding you, Dave. People are gonna keep finding you. I'm one of those realists.
I appreciate that.
People will find you and they're gonna be, oh shit. And you keep going, and the legend of the Avallone world keeps building. Let me tell you, your fan base is gonna keep growing and growing and growing. Forget about it. It's gonna grow even thicker than your mustache. Your fan base.
Well, from your lips to God's ears, as the saying goes. But yeah, I go where I can get offered a table, and a friend of mine was tabling at Ontario, and he said, "How about you want to take half of it?" I said, "Sure." So, I'm doing that for at least the Saturday, and that's May 10th. That's whenever and 2 Saturdays from now is, and then I'll be at San Diego Comic-Con. I won't be at a booth there.
Oh, well, I'll see you there though. I'm gonna be around.
I will.
I got my pass. I got my hotel, and I got my plane ticket. So I'm in. I'm in, baby. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, I'm easy to find at San Diego when I don't have a table. Excellent. But yeah, haven't heard back yet, but I generally tend to do the last 2 San Diegos. I've done 7 panels.
Oh,
over
nice.
the 5 days.
Please let me know. We'll up to the 10-1, and report for the fans on what the Avallone versus is doing. When we get to the middle of the year, it's going to be a lot of fun, I'm sure. Yeah. So, brother, before we go, let's leave a little bit of wisdom for our next generation of creators trying to find their voice, or rather their trench coat. What's your top noir flavored tip for surviving comic books today?
that it's the number one piece of writing advice that I can always give is do it your way. Don't worry about doing it somebody else's way, because the world is full of people trying to do it somebody else's way. And that stuff fails because your heart isn't in it, because you don't care. You're just trying to sound like the popular thing, the thing that you think is cool. The biggest thing you can do for yourself as any kind of artist, but particularly a writer, is ask yourself, what's the way that I would do this that no one else is going to do it? And that feeds right back to this. No one has done Red Sonja Noir before, because I haven't written Red Sonja this way before. Other people bring, Mark Russell brought great political satire to Red Sonja in his run, because that's his take. If he hadn't done it, I might have thought that was a cool way to go, but Mark did it, and he did it beautifully. So I'm not going to do that. Gail Simone had her own take on Sonja, which was great and was 100% Gail. I'm not going to write her that way. Not talking about the character. I mean the plot and the circumstances and I'd like to think that me, Gail, and Mark are all writing the same woman. It's just, what story do we place her in? But yeah, that's the number one thing for me, is you find the way the thing can be said that is the way that only you will say it.
Woo.
And that's the way to create things.
That needs
Create
to
the
be
things.
a t-shirt.
Create the things that only you would create, that no one else would think of to create.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, that's what the fun and creativity is. When your mind just expands in whatever way it expands, and you put it on that pen and paper and just be bold enough, like my man David, to put it out into the universe and see what happens. And, Dave, as a fan, thank you for doing what you do, stepping into this universe. Shit, damn, you still a young buck in the game, but nonetheless, it's like, fuck, bro, you're legendary, wonderful stuff, good stuff on the journey. You keep going. I'm a fan for sure.
Thank you.
And not just on the writing, but also, listen, folks, I'm telling you, he's going to embarrass y'all. Y'all never going to go in a t-shirt to a Comic-Con ever again after you see him. You're going to be like, fuck no. If I'm going to see this guy, I got to go in a suit or a blazer. Like you're seeing some business people, some shit. I'm telling you, bro. All right. Now, I appreciate it. So this is what I've been doing. I've been showing off his Blue Sky. So please make sure to visit Blue Sky, D Avallone at bluesky.social. You know what it is. And of course, Red Sonja will release late June from Dynamite Entertainment. And it's available for pre-order right now. You feel me?
And if you pre-order it now, if you get your comic book shop owner to pre-order it now, that's all the more chance we have to seeing Red Sonja too.
You hear this? So make sure to get her done. Go to your LCS, go to Diamond, go to Lunar, go wherever you gotta go. But make sure you pre-order this baby now. Get all those covers I showed you, because they're fire, all right? And of course, if you want to check out what Dynamite is popping off, not just Red Sonja, but Dynamite got everything popping off. Dynamite Entertainment at dynamite.com. Check them out. I mean, a wonderful publisher with a huge array of books and storylines, again, through various IPs, again, from the young to the old, baby. We got it. They got it all. They for real. Like, I'm a fan of Dynamite. I appreciate what they're doing. And I appreciate you, Dave. Thank you for spending some time with me today. And our fellow Crusaders, that all of you guys were creeping and not saying anything. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you staying quiet. Now, asking Dave that you can follow on Blue Sky. Again, that's the link. And it's also in the show notes. Again, all this stuff in the show notes. So make sure you show that love. And with that, this is Al Mega. It is David Avallone, Dynamite Comics, Red Sonja Noir, and shops in June, baby. Don't you dare miss out. Wepa! Thank you for listening to the Comic Crusaders podcast. If you like the content, please subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, please visit comiccrusaders.shop and our extended podcast family over at undercovercapes.com. And also, make sure to download the Comic Crusaders app on the Google Play Store today.